When you hear that famous soundtrack, you know it's another episode of the Fat Cats podcast here at the Gardens, Nigeria. Home of many events, but majorly starting from a weekday. You can choose any weekday, and the Gardens, Nigeria has something for you. Starting off with the Monday, you wind down your weekend on a Monday. Then you have a Tuesday with a quiz. Wednesday, reggae capital in the city. Thursday, you have the rock night. Friday, you have the Friday neon lights. And Saturdays, depending on the last Saturday of the month, you will have the famous East African Carnival. Also the home of the fourth floor Gardens Nigeria, here near the Billnet Apartments opposite Bulabira Road. But here to discuss rugby once again, here with two distinguished gentlemen. Some may not have seen them for the first time, some are seeing them for the first time. But here they are, managed to get these distinguished gentlemen here to talk something about Hippos Rugby. Maybe I'll start with my left. Kindly introduce yourself, sir.
Manzi Jonan is my name.
And what is your position in respect to this
I'm
podcast?
The current chairman, Hippos Rugby Club, and founder of Hippos Rugby Club, trustee at the same time.
There has been a lot of debate about who is the founder, who is the owner. We're going to dive into it. And the gentleman on my right.
Hi, Edwin. Name is Ian Kiryowa. For this particular conversation, I'm the secretary of Jinja over Hippos Rugby Club.
Hippos Rugby Club. So, something about Hippos Rugby Club. Finished second in the recently concluded Nile Special Premiership. Obviously, what are your memories of the season?
Of course, the season leading up to that second leg was it was one of anticipation.
Yeah.
You know, you cross from the first section into the second, and then you know you have chances of actually ending up at as one of the finalists.
Yeah.
And good enough, the boys worked towards that. They came so close to actually clinching the title. It fell so short, but yes.
Manzi, what are your fond memories of this recently concluded season involving the Hippos?
My fond memories about the conclusion of the Hippos. I think my fond memories are that we were able to go into extra time with Pirates.
Yeah.
Them having most of the national team players and still failed to beat us in the two halves shows that the boys had a lot of determination.
And obviously, when this is done, we'll obviously discuss the plans for this particular side. Those of you watching, kindly note that Fat Cats will be celebrating their third year of existence. Should I say next week? As some of you celebrate 4th of July being Independence Day in the US, some of us will be celebrating our anniversary as Fat Cats Podcast. But my guests here, Ian and Manzi, what memories or candid moments have you had of Fat Cats Podcast?
Mine pertaining the times when you've interviewed the players and also Uganda Rugby Union officials, CEO and others. I think they are quite informative, so you get that kind of backstory that you're not aware of. You get to know them better. I think that was good. But I'm very curious, why did you call it Fat Cats of all names? It's always it's a question that has always itched.
It has always itched. You want to know why? Okay,
yes.
let Ian first tell us what his memories are. Then I'll publicly say this for the first time, why we are called Fat Cats Podcast. Ian, what are your memories of podcasts as we make our third year of existence?
So away from sports, I'm a marketer with a proficiency in digital marketing.
Yes.
And it's always good to see digital brands thriving beyond one distribution channel.
Yeah.
So when you have things like the Monday Spaces,
Yeah.
it's something that actually speaks to a brand that wants to actually cover more reach and more space.
Yeah.
So for me, that's really fun. And again, the consistency.
Yes.
Many people start this and are not able to, have that kind of consistency, which you've had.
Yes.
When you say 3 years, again, it speaks to that, So I'm happy for you, and that's one of my fondest memories.
Well, the $1 million question, why the name Fat Cats Podcast? Obviously, starting with Fat Cats, one of the things, it goes back to my days at campus. Now, obviously, when I was at campus, I had very many friends, and we used to watch Super Rugby over the weekend, notably on Friday. I don't think people who are going to listen to this are going to enjoy this part, but we used to dodge lectures every Friday morning to watch Super Rugby. And they used to coincide with the New Zealand game and the Australian game. So when the Australian game would get done, it was towards lunchtime. So my very good friend Raymond Ogwang used to say, let's go and eat food from a restaurant called Kesh near my hostel. And after that, we can sleep like fat cats who are satisfied. So that is the reason why. So when Ruben reached out to me saying we need to start something and said what name can we give it, I just went back to those days. Those were the very organic days when we used to watch rugby for what it was. Not that we don't watch rugby now, but obviously commitments have crept in here and there, and they have the impact of delaying our ability to watch these games. But that is the main reason why we did that. And so we would always get food after the games. Notably, I think it was chips, pilau, chapati, and beans. I think that's why you see I'm like this now. So it's in addition to meeting a weight requirement, that is the backstory of the Name Fat Cats podcast. So I don't know if that satisfies you.
Yes,
Are you
that
comfortable
satisfies
with
me.
an
Yes.
answer like that?
Yes. Thank you.
But as we said, we're here to discuss Hippos Rugby and what they have done for Uganda, but majorly to understand the issues that are creeping up in Jinja. There's been a lot of stories here and there in the press, on TV, on social media about what the Hippos are all about, challenges in the boardroom, setbacks here and there in terms of participation, notably missing out on the Kampala Sevens, and somewhat of a story that needs to be addressed from, should I say, the different factions or those personalities who are mandated to operate the affairs of Hippos. And it's against that background that we have this podcast. But usually Hippos, when you start with Hippos, they're always synonymous with this particular sound. And this is powered by Black, our audio partners. So whenever you hear Hippos coming for a particular game, you can never miss the sound. And obviously mindful that this sound will also resonate with our preparations for the Rugby Africa Cup. It's very important that we get a move on things here in respect to Hippos. But before Hippos, let's just talk about the Rugby Africa Cup. Mindful that Uganda will be hosting this against Kenya. Fat Cats had its first and its launch date in a particular day in July when Uganda was playing Kenya. Now Uganda is playing Kenya again in a month that marks our third anniversary. But what, in light of Rugby Africa Cup as a nation, what do you think needs to stand out for Uganda as they face off against Kenya?
For me, even before we even get to that point, is the fact that we get this vote of confidence to do this for the second time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of logistical challenges, and if we are able to meet that, I think that's something we need to be proud of.
Yeah.
Now, again, facing off Kenya, they've always been that, that bully, that guy we need to beat.
Yes.
So going in, fans expect that kind of, approach. We expect that kind of anticipation and, stance mode. Stance mode. So it's one of what you'd call obugombe.
Yes.
You want to be there and see. You don't want to be told about it. You want to be there and witness that.
Manzi, anything for you with respect to RAC?
I think Uganda Rugby Union has done a brilliant job with, first of all, bidding for it and winning it.
Yeah.
Then second of all, being able to organize the first one. Now we have the second. Being able to work with National Council of Sports very well and keeping a clean record. All of that is brilliant that they've done. On the players' side, I think they have grown watching their games. They've grown leaps and bounds, beating Limpopo Blue Bulls. And though we faltered against Namibia, I think it was close. It was a last-minute kick, drop kick, penalty, which they were able to beat us with. But looking at the whole game, the game wholesomely, I think Uganda has improved greatly, and I think Kenya is in trouble. Though our coaches need to focus, I know Kenya is going to try and use those mauls.
Yes.
I think we need to train more, because I saw the Limpopo Blue Bulls do the same thing that Kenya did. So they need to sharpen up when it comes to defense against the mauls.
Okay,
Yeah.
mall defense very important here.
True.
As we prepare for the Rugby Africa Cup. Don't miss out. Go to Nambole on 8th July, 4 p.m. Tuesday. But don't forget to call in sick on that day. But as we said, our audio moment powered by Black was signifying the sound that is now synonymous with Hippos Rugby.
Oh, I do.
Yes. So, but before that, before you reach that level of having a sound or a uniform fan base like that, why Hippos? Why did this? What made you get out there and start a club from scratch? You found out why we started Fat Cats, but why Hippos? Why did you start Hippos?
I'll give you a bit of a background history that I played in Entare School. I got
Yes.
to start training and playing rugby in my P7 vacation because my elder brother Alan Tindikawa was playing for Budo at the time, and Brian Tabaruka played was in Namliango but later joined Heathens. So we all joined Heathens
Yes.
over the years. I played for Ontare, then I joined Heathens. And during that time, the love for rugby just kept growing.
Yes.
So I played for Heathens. We won 2022, 2002, everything.
Yeah.
The 7s, 15s, Uganda Cup, and Makerere 10s at the time. And it was a passion I had. I later joined Buffaloes in 2003, played for Buffaloes, and I also went and played for Remera Buffaloes in 2011 in Rwanda. Came back to Buffaloes, retired officially 2013.
Yes.
So when I had retired, I got to hear about the collapse of Nile.
Yeah.
And when I thought that was the only rugby club in Jinja. So while talking to some colleagues, I was like, why don't we go revive rugby? Because the history of rugby in Jinja is quite rich. We can't let it collapse. So I got to understand that we couldn't just go and start. We had to bid. There was a bidding process for the grounds. So that's how we went, bidded for the grounds. We had to pay 2 years in advance. At the time, I didn't have the cash on me, so we had to talk with the rest, and we agreed to get a loan from DFCU Bank, which we got and paid about 14-point-something million in advance. And yeah, that's how we began. I began, the first player I got, there's a gentleman who used to work at the bar called Issa. He's the one I asked, call me players,
Yeah.
whether young, old, whoever you can get. So he got me OJ. OJ by then was, I think, in primary, either P7 or P6, I can't remember well.
OJ is Maxwell Ebonga.
Yes, Maxwell Ebonga, a.k.a. OJ,
Okay.
yes. So he was the first player for Hippos to join in. And then he kept bringing one by one, and those others kept bringing their friends. So at the beginning, all we could train was 7s, simply because we did not have numbers. So I also got Joseph Bugabo. By then we used to work together, so I got Joseph Bugabo to come in as a coach, appointed him as coach at the time, but due to a lot of work, I had to then cover up most of the time, do the coaching. I was the everything, team manager, coach, doctor, everything you can imagine at the start. But the numbers grew over time. We only focused on 7s. I took them for the Memorial 7s in Rwanda, which we won. We came back, took them for... We had an opportunity, rhinos. That's why I've always loved rhinos.
Yeah.
We've had a few here and there, but I've always loved Rhinos Rugby Club, because if it were not for them, we'd go the long road to join the 7s, to be promoted in the 7s.
What did Rhinos do for you?
They pulled out. They didn't have enough money for the 7s.
So because they couldn't facilitate themselves,
Exactly.
it was a blessing in disguise.
It was a blessing in disguise. So I wrote to the union. By then, we were able to write to the union. So they gave us that opportunity to come in as a festival side. And voila, we surprised everyone and were number 3 in the whole of Uganda.
Okay.
And that's how we permanently got into the 7s. And never have we been relegated. Never have we gone back. Then I remember for the 15s, we didn't have numbers.
Yeah.
Okay? So I remember playing games where we were 12 against 15s, and you have a side that has extra players, 20-something on the bench,
Yes.
ready to play, and here we are.
Why didn't you? We're going to get to Ian, of course, but Ian, where were you in all this? I'm going to come to you. So you're saying?
Yes. So At the time, I remember us winning some games with 12 players on
Yes.
pitch without a substitute. I remember one game, the ref wanted to cancel it because we didn't have numbers. But I begged him and said, let us play the way it is.
Yeah.
So all I told the boys was, play like you're playing sevens. So we just kept swinging ball back and forth, and we won quite a number of games, lost a few, but we later on, 2017, got promoted. I permanently brought in Saidi as coach during that time, as coach. I think about 2016 is when we joined Uganda Cup, and we have never looked back. 2017 is when we got promoted to the league.
Okay, so such
Yes.
an illustrious history, obviously, but I think very much importantly, we're looking at these particular players. Which players stood out for you when you were starting? You've talked about Maxwell Ebonga. Who else do you have in mind?
I would say Johnson Baiga.
Do you remember the positions they used to play?
Now they kept changing. Johnson was always in the forwards.
Yes.
Etwao was one brilliant player. You won't believe it, but there was a time Taufik was just as fast as Etwao, and at times we beat him at speed.
Okay.
So when he just added on a bit of muscle, he slowed down. But these boys were brilliant.
Who else? Because you said sevens, and I also had those names.
I can tell you there was Grace, there was Johnson Baiga, there was Medi Mapesa, all of them were brilliant, honestly. Timothy Mujisha, you can't miss them out. There were so many. Some have gone abroad
Yes.
to play abroad, but even Jacob Ochen, you know, I remember he got an injury. I think this was 2017, broke his collarbone. Not, I think it was 2014 or 2015
Yes.
when he broke his collarbone. And he kind of left us for a bit of time, but came back. Yeah, but we had the entire squad, I must say. There was a young man called Okeno. He pulled out of rugby, just stopped playing, went to do some work. But that boy would sidestep. If he had continued, we would have another Philip Wokorach, I can assure you.
Yeah, Philip Wokorach dazzling the crowds at the Indian Premier League with the Rugby Premier League in India. Very massive tournament going on there, and obviously as the Fat Cats and those who are fan rugby loving Ugandans very much watch him performing and putting up those great performances. Obviously, Ian, very mindful of what Manzi has said. I think the key question here is, where were you at that time? Were you also putting in a shoulder? Were you assistant doctor? What were you doing at that time when Hippos started in 2013?
To be honest, at the time I was dabbling a couple of things, and it wasn't in sports. I think I came to the sports space, that was around 2017.
2017.
And why 2017 is that in 2015 I had started an online publication focused on Jinja. So I needed to cover as much as possible to spotlight what's happening in Jinja. So rugby was one of the things that was beginning to draw in numbers. So that's how I get introduced to the game. That's how I get introduced to the structures. That's how I get introduced to the fans team and all that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I can't say I'm a sportsman. I'll be lying.
Yes.
I'm a bit too clumsy for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least I'll be on the stands and I'll be that 11th or 16th man.
So 2017 is ideally the time you started interacting with Hippos Rugby.
Yes, please.
And who do you recall at that particular time from players or coaching perspective, even just personalities?
Johnson Baiga, away from even the pitch, was always, that sociable guy. You'd meet on the streets, and even if he didn't know you, you talk like he knew you. Odio, of course, was always that standout guy, like the MVP,
Yes.
The Mogishas.
Yes.
Then, of course, the actual now talk about rugby, this was now by Fred Mwambo.
Yeah.
Because now, given that I wasn't so much of a sportsman, I needed someone to give me an insight on a game, on how we go to ABCD points. So Fred was good at that. So we worked out an arrangement why he would write, and I would personalize that for the publication.
Okay.
Yeah. So at least those are some of the names I remember at the time. And of course, Manzi. Every time an article came out, he would be interested to know who actually was behind the article. So that's how we get to now begin talking around, like proper rugby.
Proper rugby for the Hippos.
Yeah.
All right, that's quite illustrious there. Again, as you can see, hospitality taken care of at the Gardens, Nigeria. do pick this as your sport to enjoy the wind down of the busy weekdays, as well as spending your weekends here. There's a buzzing Formula One club here. There's a buzzing quiz night here every Tuesday, and Saturdays, every last Saturday of the month is the East African Meat Carnival Day. So this particular edition will be celebrating the life of DJ Bush Baby, who unfortunately passed on this year, but very much so still at heart, still in spirit, and Gardens this weekend will very much be paying tribute to him and what he has done to grow East African music as well as Uganda on a music platform. But now, Manzi, obviously confirming where Ian was at the time, you have a constitution. You have to start something of an organization of sorts. So when you started all this, you can't start something out of nothing.
Yep.
What caused you to initiate Hippos? Not caused you, but what documents or what structure did you set up for Hippos to start it in 2013?
Yes, because I went there because of passion, as I said earlier. I went to start rugby, trying to revive it, but I was actually wrong. There was already rugby. There was Walukuva in Jinja, but I wasn't aware. So I went, bidded, and we won the bid, took over the grounds. Getting the players was another problem. I remember staying in Jinja for almost a month, and I only had 2 players I was training with. That memory I can't forget, because it was so discouraging. You're spending a lot of money, and here you are with 2 months training every other week, and there's no one else coming, no one joining. That was quite discouraging. A full month, that can be quite daunting, I must say. But we persevered through it, and players came. But as I was saying, the history, Hippos, the name Hippos, I got the name while talking. I don't remember if he was the mayor, or he must have been the mayor at the time. Someone said, oh, you're the one running the place, let me connect you. And so while talking, because I was looking for a name, and I wanted to get a name that resonates with people from Jinja. So while he was explaining to me about the bridge and the new road and the new bridge being built, he showed me the plans on his phone or tablet. And he told me that, because I asked him, is there like an emblem? Barara has the cow.
Yes.
Okay. So I asked him, what is it for Jinja? And he said, it's the hippo. And he gave me the history that there were many hippos many years ago, and they used to come into the town even, and all that from the River Nile and Lake Victoria. So that's where I got the name Hippos, because I wanted something that resonates with the people from Jinja, because I wanted it to be a Jinja thing. And that's how I got the name Hippos Rugby Club. Sitting down to work on the constitution, obviously I sat down with a few colleagues who were at the time working on all of that, came up with the constitution before even we had the player. And when we started, took it to the union. Yes. So that's what we've been running on.
And what was the, so you always make reference to we, who are these people? Were you united together by cause of rugby? What
Yes.
was your cause?
Rugby. Rugby was the main cause. Because let me be honest with you. Rugby is not profitable, if I may use that word. It is something that is for passion, for the love of the game. Okay? If you're talking about football, rugby abroad, but even when I look at what's happening abroad, most of them are in losses.
Yeah.
Okay? Whether you even look at Uganda Rugby Union as a unit, they will tell you it's not profitable in terms of making profit. Okay? That's why they at times borrow, they at times run for sponsor, because it is not something that you do for profit, something you do because you love it. So it's something that we all wanted to do, or that wanted to see next generations. You know the history of Amin playing in Jinja. That's a history. You don't want something to die, because there's a history, a rich history. So we took over the grounds. We did a lot of fenced up the place, the grounds. By that time, we had really high ant hills, dug them out, expanded the pitch, brought a grader, expanding the pitch twice. There's a lot we did. Put toilets, added more toilets, put up the grass thatch structure, added more rooms behind. There was a lot that we did that people may not see or know. And I think challenges we faced were people cutting the fence, you're always repairing. There's a lot that we had to do, but it was out of passion and love for the sport to see it grow in the area.
Picking up from what Manzi said, obviously rugby is he says non-profitable. Others may disagree. Others say rugby is for passion. Others may disagree. It has since changed. From your perspective, Ian, as a marketer, and how do you think we can transition this from just blood, sweat, and tears to something very profitable and marketable for those who engage in rugby?
I think, to be honest, one of the low-hanging fruits for that kind of stuff to happen is partnerships. So you see, like how now Special is the major bankroller for rugby in Uganda.
Yes.
Now you need 3 more of that kind to get to a certain point. Now, even when you bring it down to clubs, you need to get to a point where what you spend doesn't really worry you. You focus on playing, you focus on getting in the numbers, because at the end of the day, if Fat Cats is to, let's say, become the media partner for Hippos,
Yes.
you need to have some kind of confidence that my investment is worth it.
Yes.
Now, what you need is numbers, that's audience. What you need is reach, that are these guys able to have my content go to the extra mile I want. Then you'll be very comfortable to invest whatever kind of money you need. Now, yes, we have partners that are coming on board. We have clubs that have more than 4 partners. What we don't know is how much are they investing in. And the question we need to ask is, if it's below what we spend annually, what could be the issue? How do we fix that gap? So ideally, you're not going to get money from the gates. What you need is money from partnerships. But now those partnerships, you need to give them confidence and comfort that you are making the right investment. Now, if you have that kind of thing, then it's a win-win situation for both.
Yeah.
Now Special is still in the game because they still see a win-win situation for them. There's brand equity. There's maybe a revenue of the games. The product revenue. Maybe there's more growth opportunities for them in rugby. That's what they see as value. If they stop seeing that kind of value, they might walk away.
Yeah.
So as players, as fans, as institutions,
Stakeholders, all stakeholders.
as stakeholders, we just need to continue giving them that kind of value.
Yes.
Because rugby is a niche sport. It doesn't attract the numbers that soccer games attract.
Yes.
Because, again, it's not everyone understands rugby. But over the past 2 or 3 years, we've seen numbers grow at rugby games. Even people who don't understand rugby, they love the fun around it. They love the ecosystem. They love the banter. It starts from social media, then gets into, Now, people want to associate with that. If you can consistently have that and grow that, every partner wants that kind of value. They might not see it immediately that if I have maybe 8,000 people watching a final game,
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to get immediately. They won't look at it that way, but they look at it all, for a longer term plan. So to answer your question, it's around partnerships, but we need to be able to give value to the partners we are trying to attract. I don't want to give you my money and I'm like a CSR project.
Yeah.
I also need to see some kind of return. Are you giving me players as ambassadors? Are you maybe going to be affiliates that if say now Special is maybe having a sale target of maybe 100 million in a certain period, are you able to use your players to kind of drive towards that
mileage
goal, So if you have that kind of value, then partnerships always come. So the partners around, they have budget for this, but they don't see that value as yet.
Yeah.
First it was because of the numbers, but the numbers are now coming up. So they don't have an excuse for numbers. So it's what else can I get from those numbers?
Yeah.
So from a digital marketing perspective, from a marketing perspective, that's what you need to focus on. That's why when you have platforms like Fat Cats, you help to reach the game to places where partners want it to go.
Yeah.
You know, you having this podcast shot at Nigeria. Now Special wants that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
now the Guardians wants that, but Now Special wants that.
Yeah.
Because this is their habitat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, makes a lot of sense. I think at that point, even we can talk about our partners now. Obviously, the Lock and Key restaurant downtown near the old taxi park, Royal Complex, fourth floor. Do check out that restaurant there, fancy place downtown, coupled with the Kampala Business Lounge. Have your meetings, have your discussions, have your baby showers, have your bridal showers from there as well. Have some nice pizza, some nice food, some cocktails on Tuesdays and Thursdays, pizzas on Wednesday, Sunday, and a global promotion on Friday. And very much so, as we go ahead into the Rugby Africa Cup, do grab a Nile Special and enjoy that sweet taste, an award-winning beer, mutually recognized by those in and out of Uganda for its prowess when it comes to rugby and ability to make you a little bit happy. Manzi, obviously, at the time when you started Hippos, partners were hard to come by, but how do you get this? Obviously, you talked about the constitution, but I want to go into the constitution process. What was the rationale, not the rationale, but what was the mindset going into this process of how are you going to make hippos legal at the time?
Well, the only way to make it legal at the time was through Uganda Rugby Union.
Yes.
So we needed to have a constitution and hand it over to them, which we did. We sat down. Obviously, I had to also first check with some lawyers who are into rugby,
Yeah.
because my lawyer had never dealt with sports. So we had to get a constitution of clubs which are already in existence, then make changes based on how we are as a club. So how we are as a club is there is a company that financed and owns the club, and then there is the trustee whom they've appointed, which is me. Then there is an executive committee, because the plan was to make the club self-sustaining. So the executive committee had to be given powers to run the club on a daily basis. Then under that executive committee, there are what you call management teams like coaches and others, because you have coaches going to schools, you have coaches around team managers and all these, because you're dealing, the plan was to go to different schools, which we achieved. The plan was to have the community involved, which we also achieved, and have a full squad running.
Okay, so obviously mindful of all this, setting up this constitution.
Yes.
ExCom, you mentioned ExCom,
Yes.
trustees, and then these management committees. Obviously, I'm going to get to that point where I'm going to squeeze you on that. A lot of discussion happening right now. But going into Hippos, obviously the aim being to play rugby and put up something, as opposed to the situation at the time that there was no rugby following the cessation of Nile.
Yeah.
Were there any other objectives in respect to that? Was it just rugby? Was it also about empowering students and youth?
It was also to empower the community, empower
Yes.
the students. Rugby, for example, one of the first good jobs I got was through playing rugby. Yeah. So many players have gotten jobs because they are playing for Hippos. We got many of them in positions where they even didn't have where to stay, and gave them where to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were able to get funds who helped pay school fees for a number of them. We actually contributed to quite a number of them school fees. We were able to start rugby again in Jinja SS, because I was told it was there years back. But we were able to revive rugby in Jinja SS to a point that we financed the first bus to go play sevens, when the headmistress at the time saw us become, I think we're number 5 in Uganda or something of the sort. She was so excited, because football, they had not at the time achieved that, or they were not hitting those high levels, coming number 5 in the whole country, and yet they never financed the team to go play. All they did was give me permission to take players from the school who we were training at the time. So when we were able to hit that mark, this was, I believe, 2014. From then on, about 2015,
Yeah.
the school said they are taking over the whole school. They were going to give bursaries. So all these...
Which school was this?
Jinja SS.
Okay.
You can see from that time, even with the help of Big Tim, we call him Big Tim, Timothy Biaruhanga, he was their patron there, sports patron, and he was helping us with quite a number of those things and all the legalities working with the school. The school, from that time when I took the school, I paid the entire bus to go play at Legends, and they surprised the school. From that time, the administrator said, from this day on, the school is adding rugby. It won't just be football we are financing.
Yeah.
And so they took on all that burden to finance, feed them, transport them, do medical, which I used to finance at the time, or the club used to finance. And they went on to give bursaries. So students who used to pay school fees were no longer paying school fees. Then those who were not so good would pay what you'd call half bursary, okay, pay half the school fees. And from then on, most of our players who you see now were in Jinja SS from the Etwaos.
Who are the beneficiaries of that?
Etwao, Echeru, there are quite a number, most of them, even the current players, majority of them were from Jinja SS. So you have the school begin from that time. Even when she left, the new headmaster came in and kept it going. Though currently they have most players are from Chadondo and other places, including Walukuva, but most of our girls, over 95% of the girls are from the Nile Rapids, who are under Hippos.
Yes.
So
they also study in Jinja SS?
Yeah.
It's a mixed school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, it's a mixed school. So the majority of them are from GSS. So you find bursaries being given for many students. So many of the students who have passed, they have either paid half or full bursaries. So they go, sleep, eat. All they're doing is just playing rugby for the school. And the parents also are happy about it. So yes, that's a good thing about it. But coming back to the constitution, yes, we formed a constitution before we even had players enough to play a seven-side.
I've looked at your constitution. It makes reference to things like register of members,
Yes.
EXCOM and whatever.
Yes.
Maybe just to inform those who are watching,
Yep.
what was your initial EXCOM looking like, and what were the positions being held?
The initial I had to, as I've told you, appoint. So Bob Wally at the time, Robert Wally was our chairman. Then we had Medira Kashache, who was chairman up to 2024 when he...
No, I'm saying initially
down.
when you started.
When we stepped down.
When you started Hippos,
yes.
when you had this constitution,
Yes.
the constitution makes reference to EXCO. So who at that time was the initial EXCOM, part of the initial EXCOM?
I appointed Robert Boali.
Yes.
Medira Kashache. Martha was in there. I'm trying to remember the others. Joseph was the coach at the time. I'm trying to remember who were those at the beginning.
Yes.
But over time, you know, the beginning was the hardest because no one wanted to be part of the committee. You know, when you're small
Yeah.
or just starting, no one wants to be part of it. And even when you call for meetings, you find you only 2 people, 3 people
Yeah.
up for the meetings. So you would find I drive all the way from Kampala, come, and you find you only 2 or 3 max. And you have a meeting and call it quits, you go.
Were there any members at the time when you started?
When we
I know
started,
your constitution makes reference to a register of members.
Yes, the members, people are not paying membership. I had to actually pay for members.
Why
Even
would you pay for membership? You paid for people's membership?
Yeah, so that the club could also have some money to
Okay.
run. But a few of them, and especially players, when it was coming towards elections, I would have to pay
Yeah.
so that they were eligible to
vote.
To vote, yes.
Okay.
So what we would do was like you have what would be their allowance, you then cut it off to cover up.
And obviously, you talked about Medi, who retired in 2024, who handed over.
Yes.
But obviously, it goes without saying that there must be subsequent leadership that happened.
Yes.
Prior to getting to 2024, where you maybe handed over, were you in any one point chairperson or
Yes,
trustee, apart from trustee?
I became chairperson. That's 2014 when Bwali then joined Uganda Rugby Union.
Yes.
So he couldn't side with any team, so
Yeah.
he had to leave. So when he left to work with Uganda Rugby Union, I had to take over as chairman. And so I was chairman up to end of 2017. So January 2018, I had Innocent Ojanji appointed as the new chairman.
Okay.
Yes.
And from Innocent, who
From
was?
Innocent in 2020, January, I came back as a chairman.
You don't have term limits.
No,
Or
unfortunately,
you can rotate leaders.
and unfortunately, there were no term limits. Actually, 2020, I never wanted to come back as chairman, but there were issues which I actually never wanted to be honest. And that is why 2024, I didn't want to come back, because it doesn't make sense unless there is a problem being chairman and trustee at the same time.
What issues cause? What were the issues at the time that made you come back in 2020?
Obviously, Tim comes back into this. There was a fight between Tim and the committee that was there at the time.
Okay, so I think we're now going into personalities who are being here, but maybe for those who are watching, who is Tim and why are these issues coming up?
Tim was our former technical director, and at the time...
I'm reliably informed he's still the current...
No,
director.
he's not.
He's not?
Maxwell Obonga is.
Okay, so go ahead, yes.
Yes. So, what happened that time is there was a bit of a fight. So, Tim kept calling me and updating me, okay? Now, I insisted there are many people can stand as whatever, but because him and other people kept calling me, they said, if you don't, this thing is going to collapse, all the hard work you've put. So I came back with that notion, but I said, guys, I'm going to come figuratively, but I expect you to be the ones with the ideas and everything to run the club, the entire committee. Okay. Yeah, because some of us have given ideas, and I think we need fresh minds, so to speak. People like Ian to come in with fresh ideas, fresh way of doing things. And so I came back reluctantly. I remember driving from Gulu that day and reaching Jinja, but elections had just ended at that point because I came in a bit late because of the jam I met on the way. But that I took over from 2020. Now, at the time, Ojanji also told me, had warned me actually, about Tim wanting to snatch the club. I said, if there is no proof, I need proof. How can someone snatch when there are documents or anything? And they just warned me and let it be. So anyway, at that point,
but sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
But talking about Tim,
yes,
Tim doesn't come out of nowhere. How does Tim get into
2018? It so happened that one of our players called Dave Haddock brought Tim, and we met at Silver Springs Hotel and said, this is Tim Grover. We want him to join the club and everything. But because I had never met Tim, he was not a fan, he was not part of the club, I had to decline to his request. I said, yes, I appreciate that he wants to join the committee and be a part of the club, but let him first be seen around and known to others. Then after seeing him for some time, he will then ask him to come and join. Perhaps
So what position did you give him?
So 2019, Saidi is the one who brought him. He came back to me and convinced me. But little did I know at the time Saidi was his employee. So he knows how to get you employed, then use you too.
That's a very serious allegation, sir.
No, I'm telling you facts, because I've seen it happen not once, not twice, many times. Okay. So, and it's something that he's doing with some players. Employed them, quite a number of players. Yeah?
Yeah.
So uses them to do his dirty work, so to speak. But anyway, long story short, I was convinced, and just because I trusted Saidi at the time, We then fixed him into the committee towards end of 2019.
In the committee as which position?
I can't remember well, but it might have been technical director or something. 2020 is now when he was elected.
Also, 2020 he was elected into the position as technical director.
But when I came in is when I start noticing some wrong things happening. Some of the wrong things, like he went and renewed Jinja Hippos Rugby Football Club, which Ojanji had done to open up a bank account. I had given the committee permission to open up in 2018 to open up a bank account. So they had lost the original documents, which I had given them. And so he went, opened up Jinja Hippos Rugby Football Club as a CBO to open up a bank account with innocence. When he opened, they did it just purposely just to open up a bank account. They never ever took the documents to Uganda Rugby Union or anything. So that was done. I actually called them and said, such things you need to consult. Yeah?
Yes.
You shouldn't, like, that's where now a trustee comes in and puts checks and balances. But it was okay. It went on. And fast forward, he asks us to open up, in 2020, team asks us to open up Hippos Foundation, which now is like the major area of contention, which fueled some of these issues. So, quickly back, he opens up an account without the knowledge of the committee at the time in 2020.
Okay.
Opens up a bank account. Saidi had given him also the email. So he writes to the Uganda Rugby Union, telling them Hippos Rugby Club has changed the bank account using our club email, but doesn't copy us in. So now the union starts to send money on that account. So at the time, I used to ask the treasurer, like I didn't know.
Who was the treasurer at the time?
Let me just quickly finish up this.
Yeah.
I start getting concerned because we are not getting proper accounts. Team seems to know more about the account than the treasurer seemed to know at the time. So anyway, long story short, when Ken comes in as the treasurer, I am quite concerned because we are not getting anything, any information. And while talking to him, he actually tells me that I'm not a signatory on the account. And I'm shocked, I'm surprised. And then I say, who are the signatories? So we're in a meeting and no one is a signatory. It's only Tim Grover. That's when now red flags come up. So when I get to find out, he opened up, sent an email. So I first thought it was, some people can have too much bugumu to do things, have that gas. So I thought perhaps he's just done it in error, but wishing to do well. There are people who do an error, but they want to do good. So we talked about it and I insisted, let Medira Kashache and the treasurer can be signatories at the time.
Yeah.
Long story short, that also delayed. So 2024, I put my foot down. I say, if you do not do it within this coming week with the entire committee, we are going to have to write to union and open up another account. So that is when now he gets Ken to be a signatory. But he made it in such a way they don't need to sign at the same time. Okay?
Okay. Mindful of
time.
Of this. No, not of time.
Okay.
We have plenty of time for this. Ian, at this particular point, obviously you did mention the early days you interacted with Hippos in 2017. What was your first impression of Hippos at the time when you joined in 2017 in terms of a leadership structure?
Now, to be honest, a lot of things in Jinja have been passion-led projects. You know, like you mentioned, even the online publication that I had started as a passion project.
Yes.
And after running for some time without any clear revenue strategy, it became a bit complicated for us, so we also pulled out.
Yeah.
So most of the things in Jinja are led by passion.
Yeah.
So you don't really question or don't really put focus on what's the leadership structure like.
Yes.
It's seeing how things are working out. Like they say, the end justifies the means.
Yeah.
You're seeing guys training every day. You're seeing guys putting in the time on game days. Like, okay, this is a good thing. And like I mentioned earlier, My initial interest was to see things that spotlighted Jinja
Yeah.
as a destination. And Hippos was doing that perfectly well.
Yeah.
So I didn't really look at any other thing else. I remember, I think it must have been Martha who introduced me to Manzi the
Yes.
first time.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, this is the owner of Hippos.
Yes.
At the time, for me, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
At the time, because games were happening and boys were doing well. So my impressions on that really, again, I need to be honest. At the time, for me, it didn't really strike a chord. It didn't strike a flag. So yeah,
At that time, it was business as usual for you.
yeah.
Okay. Obviously mindful of how you get it, but you'll give us your leadership entry, or maybe we could just dive into it now. How did you eventually enter leadership? Was it after 2020, or it was subsequently this new notice that we subsequently will discuss?
No, again, like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't in the structures at any
At
given
all.
at any given time. So my entry was, of course, as a fan.
Yeah.
As a fan, just watching the game.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we now form a fans group.
Yeah.
And again, with the fans group, we needed some kind of structures, because I hate to get into something and it's half-half.
Yes.
So I mobilize people, I push people. I'm like, let's have some kind of leadership. And even in that, I wasn't a leader.
Not at all.
Yeah, I was just pushing for things to be done in a structured way. So again, from that, I think my voice became a bit more audible around systems, processes, and structures. So again, when I would see things like accountability, because it came up in some of the conversations at a certain time, and of course, as a person who is putting in some investment, some time, some passion, you'd want to really understand, okay, if there are accountability issues, what's the issue? Can't it be solved? So that's how I now begin asking questions that kind of opened up people's minds that, okay,
Yeah.
I think we've been sleeping on this. Mutu accountability, give us a
And what were the key accountability issues at the time?
No, of course it was because fans, again, given the passion, were kind of making contributions to the warfare, to
Yes.
to game days and stuff. So at some point, some people felt like they needed accountabilities on that money and what players were actually getting from their own team structures. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the questions were, if we're putting in so much, what are these guys actually contributing?
When you say these guys, who do you mean in particular?
Now that's a team, the team structure.
The team structure.
Yeah,
yes.
the exco, maybe the leadership and all that. So the questions were around that. Now that's when questions like things like what was mentioned start coming up. There are issues A, B, C, D, and of course at some point you'd want to go behind,
Yeah.
outside the main group conversations and try to ask, okay, what's the issue? Can't we find ways of doing that?
And at this particular point, when the accountability issues come up, what is the ExCom composition at that time?
Depending on the year which you're talking about, but at
Okay, when you decided to come back,
2024?
not 2024,
2020,
2020, yes, particularly then.
coming as chairman.
Yes.
It was chairman, vice chairman. The core committee was chairman, vice chairman. You have the treasurer, secretary, and
Who
the
are
club
those people?
captain. At the time,
Yes.
they changed later on a bit here and
No, I'm
there.
saying at that time when
2020 when I came.
when you are jumping back in.
Myself, I was the chairman.
No, before you jumped back in.
2020 or
When-
20,
when you-
2019.
Yes, when you said you were called back.
2019, I came back officially as chairman in 2020, but 2019, Ojanji was the chairman, Medi Rakashache was the vice. We had the club captain, we had Saidi as the coach, we had, I'm now mixing up. William was secretary, I believe. We had, so that was kind of the structure of the management at the time.
Obviously, you make reference to 2020 when you come in.
Yes.
What was the mandate at that time? And obviously, we have to be mindful that you called back as chairman. Were you elected or you
Yes, I
appointed
was.
yourself?
I was elected.
You were elected.
Yeah, I was elected.
So there was an
I didn't-
elective AGM where you were subsequently elected as.
Yes. I overseen all elections. That was the only election which I never, because I was driving from Gulu. So I called them and told them I'm going to run late, because by the time I reached Kampala, I looked at the time and I knew I would not make it on time, because I reached Kampala like at perhaps 3 something, and there was jam. So I told them, continue with the elections. I'm going to reach, but I may reach late. I reached there about 6, yet they had started at 5.
Okay, so
yeah.
obviously mindful of that, at one point you end up having 2 roles.
Yep.
How does that necessarily work? Maybe just for those who are watching, how does merging role of trustee work alongside that of chairperson,
Well, as trustee, it's to just oversee the executive committee.
of which you would chair as chairperson?
Yes, and that is why many times, even in meetings, I preferred someone else to even chair the meetings.
Okay,
Yeah,
and this
but I
person
chaired most
particularly
of them.
was
I would give it would Medira Kashache would
Yes.
chair. We had also William Mujiche who would do a good job chairing the meetings, which was good, and I would be there with them.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, now as we're going to we want to have an understanding of what caused this fallout. I know you've mentioned personalities here and there, but I want to focus more on the issues. So, obviously, we're very mindful that there was somewhat of a fallout in the Hippos camp, where you at one point handed over leadership,
Yes.
and to, I think, under the stewardship of Joshua Wakabi, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes.
And they, particularly as a faction, or the leadership at that time, opened up a constitutional amendment process, if I'm not mistaken. And with that particular amendment process done, that's when we get to hear this in the news, that there is an issue in Jinja.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ian has that history, or you're a better
Yeah.
place to tell us.
He has the history, and
Ian,
I
do you want
believe he has,
to
but
tell us what particularly caused this? Because
but
Josh,
I can
yes.
help out on some parts.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
because ideally, not having been part of the election process
Yes.
and also not having been in leadership before,
Yes.
yes, I have some of the facts and some of the details, but
Yes.
it would help if a person who has actually invested in the process
Yeah.
gives that clarity. It will give
Okay.
credibility to the conversation.
All right. Briefly, I will say this, that towards the elections, we only had one person who had paid membership. And the
Okay.
Constitution states if someone has not paid 3 months to elections, they were not valid to take part of the elections, to either vote or be voted.
Yes.
So most of the people had not paid. So it did not make sense for me to appoint.
So it did not make sense for you to appoint because people had no membership.
What I needed was to change things so that we had fresh minds coming.
Okay. So this time you didn't need to pay membership for anyone.
No.
Yes.
Because many people wanted to pay. People wanted to pay.
Oh, this time people had capacity to pay.
People
Yes.
had capacity. People wanted to pay.
Yes.
So we changed the constitution. Players had to pay also. At the time, it was 50,000. So we changed to make it 100,000. The committee agreed to it. Now, I was in discussion with the committee. We agreed to make it 100,000. Committee agreed on that. And because I have power as a trustee to change and amend the constitution, with that power given to me, I amended and said, okay, it's going to 100. Then
Was there any meeting to amend this constitution at that time?
Yeah, we had a meeting. We actually sat and had a meeting.
So
I have
there's
messages.
everything,
I can send you everything.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
discussed, and I always tell them put it in writing. I'll take screenshots of some. All of those are there.
Yes.
I have documented. It's all there. So those things I'm keen on, which other people amend, so that no one turns and says no, we never. Everything is there documented.
Yes.
So the committee agreed on raising it to 100,000.
Okay.
Me, I had even suggested 200. They say people won't afford because Heathens, I think, is 250 or 200.
250.
I think 250. So I was like, why don't we also? But they said no, people won't afford here. They will not pay it.
Yes.
So we said okay, 100 because they understand the people even better. Then we said players, instead of paying 100 also, or the 50 they used to pay, let's make it free for all players. So which I also accepted
So
and agreed
players,
to.
by implication, would become members of Hippos.
Of Hippos automatically.
Okay.
Then in that same constitution, we also something that I wanted changed and raised. Only one person supported me, who was Ken Bauer. The rest of the committee said no, was to bring in these fans who have supported for a long time, which includes the Joshua Wakavis, Joab, and all these others.
To have them on the committee or as members of the club?
To pay membership, because
membership, yes.
And they were all against it. But I said, listen, later on I said, listen, yes, you're all against it, but this one I'm making it so that we have fresh minds on board. And the other thing was, the constitution was not allowing them to stand, so I said I'm changing it to allow people, whoever pays for 2024. So our calendar year goes from January to December.
Yes.
Okay, clearly stated in the constitution, and I made it very clear, written, documented, sent on to the fans group, encouraging them to pay. And they had gotten in touch, letting me know they were willing to stand and take up positions, and I was happy about it, because I would see them buy players drinks, take them, buy them, roast for them a goat and all these things. So when you see people 1 year, 2 years down the road, they are doing all these things for players, your natural instinct is they love the club. They love the players, and that's why I insisted I was changing the constitution for them to come, because we need fresh minds also.
So the trustee in that case had the powers to amend the constitution?
To amend the constitution.
Without any consultation?
Yes.
So that was...
Or prior notice.
Without prior notice?
Or
no need for members, it's just...
Yeah. Because, and this was something we foresaw in 2013.
Yes.
Because once you have people come over the years as members, they might want to overpower. You get? So we had to make sure it is within the constitution.
To protect that particular...
Exactly, the people who started the club from the beginning. So after all of that, what happened was, we changed, had the elections. Actually, we invited Eric to come in, and Eric oversaw the voting and everything. And
that's Eric Butime?
Eric Butime.
Yes.
He's the one I invited, and he came and oversaw the electoral process. Yeah.
Which ushered in
the Wakabis.
The Wakabis.
Yes.
But that now, is in 2020?
2024.
2024, November the 9th.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you effectively handed over to them?
Yes, handed over. But I asked them to come for a meeting, because habitually what we do when a new committee comes, I sit with them as a trustee. And also knowing that none of them had read the constitution, because over 80 or 90% of them paid on the last day to elections. And what happens is, constitutionally, when you pay, we have to give you a copy of the constitution. And that's why the 3 months had to be there, so that people have time to read and understand the constitution.
Yes.
So we had a group of people come in who had not read the constitution, did not understand the history of the club. And so when I was asking for that meeting, which was really important for me to take them through the history of the club and the amendments, it was never made. So I posted it on the forum of the group.
Yeah.
And quickly, just to make it brief, Wakabi actually helped edit some things, said you need to add this, move that, which I sent to the lawyer, which he made changes, and then we took to the union, only for them to come and reject that constitution later. And how they reject that constitution, Tim Grover had to answer at an SGM for the money raised in Hippos Foundation. So goes, meets them, causes confusion among them. Okay?
But first wait, we need to... We now obviously have the election of Butime. The election of organized by, overseen by Butime, and then the Hippos Foundation part that you have just mentioned in. Obviously mindful of, I think, another entity coming in from this discussion. You talk about Hippos Foundation. In summary, what is Hippos Foundation about?
Hippos Foundation, Tim Grover raised it in a meeting while I was in Jinja, having a meeting with the committee, and requested that we open up a foundation to raise money for the club.
Yes.
And as a struggling club financially, it was a brilliant idea for all of us as a committee. But I agreed on the fact that there must be the vice chairman Medi signing, being a signatory to the foundation, and the treasurer. But later I found out he opened it without them signing. And later on I also asked about the account, why they were not signatories, because I asked them and they said we're not signatories on that account. But you keep hearing rumors here and there of money being raised for Hippos Foundation.
Do you know what the composition of Hippos Foundation was?
What do you mean what the
In terms
composition?
of who are the owners of it?
I have not done that background check, but what I know, Tim Grover is the signatory to it and maybe the sole signatory. I haven't yet had an investigation on it. That is a part where government now comes in and does a check, a background check on it. Because I asked him for the accounts. I first, when the committee raised, a number of people from the committee would inbox me that you as chairman have to raise this. I said, no, let the treasurer first tackle it, then I handle it. So the treasurer contacted him about it, then put it on the forum. Then from there as chairman, since nothing was coming, I raised it, and he'd keep dodging it and saying, yeah, he'll bring everything. Money hasn't been raised and everything. But whenever we'd run GoFundMes, money would be raised.
Yeah, obviously, in respect to the Hippos Foundation, we very much reach out to Tim and Wakabi, who actually has confirmed that he'll appear on the podcast at a given time to expound much on that. Obviously, back to the election, because we diverted a bit for the Hippos Foundation part of it. But this particular election, and having overseen that, we understand that months later, you come in as trustee to undo the entire process.
I never undid anything per se, simply because the constitution that brought them into power, they rejected it.
Which constitution in question is this?
2013.
2013, okay.
With amendments.
The amendments to the 2013 constitution.
Those are the ones you made as trustee?
Yes, as trustee. They rejected them.
Okay.
So by rejecting that constitution,
They
wrote
the
to
issue.
union saying they are rejecting it. Okay? Now, you can confirm this with the Uganda Rugby Union. They wrote. Okay? So when I took it, the union said, no, but the committee has rejected. So I said, why? There's going to be a meeting over this. So I also wrote. And the email
You
they
wrote
wrote
in which capacity? Trustee?
as a
Okay,
trustee.
all right.
So I wrote and they said, listen, we're going to hold a meeting for both parties to sit and discuss. I was open for discussion because I need to know why have they rejected it. And I was surprised to find that in the message, the email they sent union, they were saying Manzi is trying to do a hostile takeover of the club. I wondered, what kind of hostile? And so I noticed they were also calling themselves now Jinja Hippos Rugby Football Club. So I responded to union. I said, listen, I have never been part of Jinja Hippos Rugby Football Club. I am the founder of Hippos Rugby Club, registered as Hippos Rugby Club with Uganda Rugby Union in 2013. Now, the mistake they made, they assumed we are registered as Jinja Hippos Rugby Football Club, which is a different entity. It is a CBO, okay, which was registered to open up a bank account in 2018.
Yes.
Okay, which had never been taken to Uganda Rugby Union. Okay, so union says, bring your documents. They bring their documents. Now, Tim had renewed. Remember the other document he used to renew to open up the bank account? He presents it. The union look at the documents. They asked me also for mine.
We're jumping all over the place. Now,
Yes.
obviously, you talked about union having meetings.
Yes.
And in this meeting, you're talking about the executive that was put in place after your
Yes.
departure. alongside you as another person having a meeting as trustee.
Yes.
Okay,
we,
so
we were
in that-
all there with
yeah, all
Uganda
there.
Rugby Union representatives, with that new executive.
So what happened in these meetings?
And the club lawyer was also there, the one who helped us from 2013. He's been with us, so all documents, contracts, everything.
What
goes through all of them.
particularly happened in these meetings?
In this meeting, they told us, produce your documents. They produced theirs. I produced my documents. So the question to them was, okay, you say the club started 2018. So how did you jump without playing in Eastern, Central, then jump suddenly? Then number two, how was there, can you produce a document showing that Hippos Rugby Club gave you their players, because there's got to be a transfer of players.
Okay, from
Hippos Rugby Club to Jinja Hippos Rugby Football Club.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. So what they didn't realize was, when you see the Facebook page was the first one, I believe we opened it 2014.
Yes.
Or 2015, 2014, I believe it was. I asked Martha Nakale to change it from Hippos Rugby Club to Jinja Hippos when we became number 3 in the whole country. I asked her to change it because all the questions were,
Where are these guys from?
who are those guys? Because no one knew
Yeah.
who Hippos was. Who are the Hippos? Where are they from? How come they've just come up suddenly? And so just to stop the questions being too many, because media people were calling other people, and that was their number one question. Who are you? Where are you from?
Yes.
And so we changed it to Jinja Hippos Rugby Club on the Facebook, but that is not our registered name.
Okay.
The Jinja was to show people we are from Jinja. We are proud to be from Jinja. Okay? So when that happened, most people thought that's the new people came over the years.
Yes.
So the Wakabis think we are Jinja Hippos Rugby Football Club, because they were deceived by Tim Grover with those documents he produces. Okay? And so he's like, let's discard. But they don't know why he was taking that angle with them, because even the documents he had are not the certified ones, which Innocent used. But nevertheless, here we are with Uganda Rugby Union, and I loved some pertinent questions they asked. So they told them, funny thing, you have people like Yayiro Kasasa, Ramzi. These were people who were there from 2013, who saw me bring documents, who saw me. Okay? So I remember, and I won't mention names, but one of them says, listen, since you claim you don't know the history, because they asked them, do you know the history of this club? Do you know how it started? They
Yes.
say, no, we don't know. So they tell them, listen, let us now give you the history after we were all produced. This club began in 2013, okay? Was registered in 2013. And the man you're seeing over there is the one who started it. He's the founder.
Yes.
So what we are going to advise is sit down and tell him the things you need and agree. And I was happy, actually, when we were walking out. I said, guys, let's have a meeting now before you travel back to Jinja.
You wanted the meeting to resolve.
To resolve,
the ownership
because I want
papers.
to. No, that one is not contested.
You're the owner of Hippos.
I'm not the owner. There is a company that owns it, the company that put in the money.
So
Okay.
there's a company that put in money in this company.
Yes, and it's the one that appointed me. Anytime they can wake up and say Manzi is no
Was
longer
this
our
company
trustee.
part of the negotiations?
As
At
a
the
trustee,
union, at the union.
as a trustee, I represent them. That's why they appointed me as a trustee. That's why I represent them. That's why their lawyer was there, because he's been the club lawyer. The company has paid the club lawyer. The club has never paid the company lawyer up to date. The club has never paid the lawyer. He is paid by the company. Coming back to what I was saying is, end of day,
Yes.
okay? Union made it very clear, but advised, guys, go sit and talk. 1 week, 2 weeks, no meeting. I'm calling them and I'm asking for a meeting. So Union calls us again and says, listen, you people need to sit and have a meeting. Nothing has yet happened. So we have another meeting. And again, it's agreed we meet. I send messages, try to call them up. The next time, no meetings. When Union now gets involved and says, if there is no meeting, we are going to give a final stand on this matter, but we are advising you have a meeting, so extended the period. Now, this is over months,
Yes.
what I'm saying. So I meet with Joshua Wakabi. He says, you know what, let's have a meeting after June
Yes. June this year.
Yes. And that was going to be like 3 months later.
Yes.
Or something of the sort. I said, no, why? Let's have a meeting now, resolve. You tell me what you want, okay? Then we see how to include. Where are we pushing it? He said, well, that's what I agreed with my people. If it's not past that time, we can't have a meeting. So I said, well, I have to get back to union. We failed to agree on this one then, because I see no use of postponing. Let's sit, agree. What do you want? Okay, let's see how we work this thing out.
Yes.
So when that happened, they called for another meeting at National Council of Sports. They said, listen, because it has failed to agree, we go back to the original constitution. So they rejected the constitution which brought them into power, and their new constitution they were trying to bring in was rejected, because for that constitution to come, it has to be in accordance with the constitution, the one which was in power, in force.
Yes.
So we went back to 2013.
That's what the union decided
Yeah.
in that particular letter.
Back to the one which has been the original, which
The one they're familiar with.
The one
is
that
exactly
in their records.
Yes. So we went back.
And maybe particularly, how did that decision to go back to that constitution affect the club? Because we noticed at one particular point this past season, the Nile Rapids were significantly affected. I have received stories or even received phone calls about sponsors particularly not willing to engage with your management in light of the disputes ongoing at the club.
So this is what I will tell you. No sponsor wants to get involved where people are insulting them or anything.
Yes.
Okay, they want to stay back. They want to be where there is peace.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you on that one. But he will expound on that.
Yeah.
But this is what I will also say, that as far as what is going on, Nile Breweries pays for transport, okay, and has not refused to spend that money. That management team decided not to have the ladies travel. So
That's a serious allegation. You're
No, it's
saying
not
the
as serious.
ladies were denied the opportunity to travel.
Let me put
Yes.
it this way. I know people talk without knowing. I remember a young man recently, a few months ago, telling me, oh, you know, team pays our transport when we are going for sevens. He pays
Yes.
our accommodation and feeding. I'm like, no, that is paid by the sponsor, Nile Breweries.
Yes.
It's not him. He goes, withdraws the money and gives you,
Yes.
and goes and pays. You see the money, him having the money, but it's not his. It's Nile that has paid. You understand?
Yeah.
So there is this mindset that people are told, you know, like going and telling, some players were telling me how they were told that I'm taking 50% of all money coming from sponsors. I have never been paid by the club. Never, not even once. Not even 100 shillings or 50. In fact, every year I have put in money
Even
as
this
an
even this
individual.
year.
Yes, even this year, as an individual. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the people who move around with stories and lies and everything, when we are talking, and this is what I think I told you, that I want you to bring documentation.
Yes.
If you claim I've ever gotten even 50 shillings from a sponsor, bring documentation and say, here, you signed here. Or we transferred it to your bank account. Because I intentionally, when we changed the bank account in 2018, I intentionally did not want to be a signatory on the account, though it also has its other problems.
As you've explained.
Yeah, yes, as I have seen, okay, it has its issues. Because here you are a trustee who seems to have power. People can be quick to say you're getting money, yet you're not, if you're a signatory. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? So I preferred that I do not touch money. You understand? I don't touch money. So anything happening, I would say withdraw. I would approve money to be spent, but I would not touch any money. Okay? So if there is any expenditure, any treasurer of the club can ever say Manzi got this amount, I am happy and glad to see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
In now, obviously, Ian, sorry for putting you on the sidelines. I'm
No,
now
no, it's
giving
okay,
you
it's okay.
I'm now giving you the ball. We are finished with the facts that happened at the union and the like. We have seen the players very much involved, and this has been a trend in politics. I think players are very important stakeholder in the sport, and at times decisions are made without their input, without their knowledge, and the more things go ahead, they receive more of like implementation orders or directive orders as opposed to participation. I've seen very many Hippos players who have actively come out on social media, very much so to denounce your executive in light of the notice that came out, where you exercise the trustee powers to take back leadership. And we're going to come to that as well. But in respect to players and their participation, how can this be balanced in respect to players actively on the field as well as their engagement in club management?
I think it's two-pronged. In the leadership structure, there is a core team, but then
Yes.
there's also a team that can be appointed by.
Yes.
So there's always representation for players, you know. That's for either the main team or the female team.
Yes.
There's that bit. But then also, again, as you mentioned, they are important stakeholders to the game. Ideally, what would really happen, or what would be a prudent thing, would be to understand each other's role as a stakeholder. You know, if my role is to make sure that your welfare is taken care of, that should be my focus.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to know whether you slept out last night. I mean, whether you dating who, whether you do, what drink you take. You know, mine is your welfare taken care of? Yes. So as players, yes, your most important thing is to be out there on the pitch, make yourself known, make the club, get the trophies and everything. It's important to understand that yes, they have things that they need to be taken care of. And through the channels that have been appointed and channels that have been set up, you can voice your concerns. When it goes out of that structure, it becomes problematic. Because if a player who has been called to the national team can stand up and say you're denouncing leadership that you don't know where it came from or even how the club started, it becomes an issue. Not only for you, but for your future career, and for all others. Because if you come and say that me, I'm only going to recognize Edwin because he's the guy who bought my beer. How do you know where Edwin got that money from? And that's what he has been speaking to. That yes, this guy is a technical director and that is his role. He gets money from wherever they come from, but he's only a channel. It's not coming from his pocket. Because there have also been, conversations of where he came to certain people and asked for money that we don't have money for ABCD. But like he mentioned, the sponsor of the game at the national level provides for this. So when you come and begin asking why is it that Manzi is coming up right now, I've never seen him. He's a trustee, he's not supposed to be at the game, at your trainings.
Yes.
If he passes around, well and good. It's not his obligation. The person obligated to be there as you train, as you play, is a technical director.
True.
So it takes me back to the thing that we need to understand our role as stakeholders in each of these businesses, these entities. As fans, they've done their part. They don't want any of the politics. If some have been dragged into the politics, that's another thing. But they have a strong stand that we are out of this politics. We are out of this politics. We want to see the game grow. We want to be at the pitch to support Hippos. The famous Vuvuzela sound. That's what they want. The players there should be. I need playtime.
Yeah.
I need my welfare taken care of. If I fall sick, if I get an injury on a game days, I need to be comfortable and confident that it will be taken care of.
Yeah.
as people who invested in this club at the onset, what they need to understand is, are we still on our core principles? Why we set up this club? You know, do we have the sustainability that we want? Do you have to come back to us for money every other time? That's what they need. So if we all understand where we fall in this equation, it helps a lot. So it's unfortunate right now that players have been dragged. I'm going to use that word specifically. Have been dragged into this. It's a bit unfair for them.
But
You know?
but when you look at it,
not
when you
unfair
look
for
at it
them,
from
but
this perspective,
but unfair
yes.
to them.
When you look at it from this perspective, is that look, the players have very much as all leaderships happen, is that there will always need to be a personal touch with these players to get them motivated.
Yeah.
As you said, rugby is not just about passion. There is need for motivation and players to get involved. So could they be right? I could also make a case and say they are right to argue that this particular gentleman team has been very helpful to them and transformed their lives.
Let me quickly take on that. It's very okay
Yes.
to believe and trust a guy you see on a daily basis. It's human.
Yes.
It's understandable. It's acceptable. It's okay.
Yes.
But the thing is, you need to understand the entire scope.
Yes. The context.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's there in a capacity as the guy you're supposed to see every day. If you understand that concept, he's going to be gone tomorrow. What are you going to do? You know, get attached to him while he's around. That is okay. Demand that you want to be close to him. It is okay. When it comes to a point of, I think this year because of A, B, C, D, the technical director, we're getting a new person. You need to accept that and get attached to that other person now. So yes, they have valid concerns. The issue which is maybe contentious is the intent of that.
Don't you think this has substantially affected the players, notwithstanding the good performance in the final and the league?
Of course it does, because if you have players who are employed by one of the people and used to blackmail so many other things, they are able to influence others. Now, you'll understand in any community there are people who are timid. There are people who are only performers. I don't really care what happens, but I just need to play. Then there are people who just want to maybe escalate stuff. Now, if you have people being used to blackmail an institution, blackmail the process, having some kind of influence over the other players, you know what happens.
Yes.
You know, so you would say that majority of the players are timid. There are only a few people that are that vocal. And I think, without mentioning names, you try to imagine the vocal ones. Now, these have a voice over these other guys. They'll talk over them. You will expect it to happen. So there's that impact, there's that demoralization. But then again, right now as we prepare for the sevens, there are people training. We are not putting it on social media, but they're training. You know?
Tuesday we had 26 of them training for sevens.
Manzi, there was a video of you in Jinja.
Yes.
Where you're very much, I don't know how to call it, if it's a confrontation, but you had an interaction with players.
Yes.
Now, looking into that camera.
Can I?
Looking into that
Yes.
camera, what message do you have to give to these players in light of the ongoing disputes, current disputes in the club?
This is what I will say. Number one, people don't know the history of that video. Tim had told them that Manzi has refused to pay your allowances, as though I'm the treasurer who holds the account. And so they came, hey, we've been told our money. And I'm like, I'm a trustee, I don't sign anything. And so they were like, our money, Hippos, there. Now, they were sent saying, I have the money. I don't hold any money. Okay, that is number one. I've made it clear so many times. Okay, and though changes are definitely coming, but you learn over the years certain things. There are many things you learn. You see, and that's the nice thing. I've been around 12 years. I've seen things. It's not the first time that we've had issues as a club, but one thing I can guarantee the players is keep focused. You want to play rugby, keep playing. Focus on your sport. Do not get involved in the politics. Keep focused. And I love the way Chadodno had its issues. The players kept focused on playing. And I also, Hippos players, majority, kept focused on playing. That one I can guarantee you. The majority were focused on playing. We have a squad of 60. How many come out vocal? Perhaps 5, okay? You have Rujumba, who they chased from Pirates, okay? I signed him to Hippos, okay? I picked him when he hadn't played for them for months. He was abusing them on a daily basis on social media.
Yes.
But among the things when I got him, I said, in Hippos, we don't tolerate that. So social media, we don't want you abusing anyone or anything. So when you'd go and abuse Union, I would call him and say, man, stop that. So he gets someone who encourages him, okay? And so here he goes and woo, we never responded because end of day, he's a player. He will come, he will go. We will stay. I've been around for 12 years. Players have come, some have gone, some have stayed. And that is part of life, okay? So mine is focus on training, focus on playing, focus on winning. That is the most important things. The administrative part of it, you will not keep fighting battles every year. And the person who comes now, who has not been around from the beginning, will go. And as he has gone, others will come. And that's something that I just want them to know and encourage them to focus on training and keep putting their game up. Yeah.
Obviously mindful of the allegations and statements made here today. One thing does stick out, that subsequent to the announcement of your executive invoking powers of the trustee, you have been criticized quite a lot. And one of the things I'll even put to you myself, having gotten a bearing of the story, is that you have personally used the Constitution to play to your whims, particularly. In which sense? You have somewhat that what we would very much call a conflict of interest. You have served as chairman,
Yes.
but then you're also the trustee.
Yes.
That is a very thin line through which power can be abused.
True.
Then, in addition to that, you've also been accused, and this, if I think, even has appeared in print, where you reported a case against Tim Grover at Jinja, I think a police station in Jinja, which subsequently resulted into a search warrant being issued against him in respect to that.
You need to understand the
Yes.
story behind it. For 2 years,
Yes.
you see, it's something that we have never faced as a
Yes.
club in the history of
Yeah.
Hippos, where someone wants to hold everything. You want to try to be a treasurer, you're trying to take over being a coach, you're trying to take over being technical director, you're trying to take over being chairman, you're trying to take over all roles, okay? Secretary. He changed the password of the club email and was the only person able to send Union and the rest.
So that warranted a report of the case to police.
Now he went and removed all equipment from the club. So players and everyone had to pick things from his home, call him. So everything was revolving around him. And that is not how I set up the club from the beginning. A club captain is the one in charge of the stores. He can access and give the coaches and the players balls and everything. Everything should be found at the club store. Why are you keeping them in your home as though it is personal property? I think you are aware it is a criminal offense. Okay? I called him, I sent him messages. We discussed it on our last year, the XCOM.
Yes.
Even the year before, I said, take those things back. Last year, I said, take them back. This year, I reported the matter in January. The police said, should we come now? I said, no, let me talk to his friends.
Yeah.
Hopefully, when they talk to him, sense will go into his head. I called a number of the people around him. I said, listen, I will take action if he doesn't bring them back. When I would call him, he would give me F words. So the only option, now remember, I've given how many months? Okay? Those are many months.
Yes.
2 years of talking, then I report the matter to police, then I again engage you, even your friends, to try and talk to you. And when I call you, you're able to give me F words and send me F word messages. The only thing you will understand for such a person is force. So actually the police called him and he insulted them. Then they were like, this man, we need to go for him. And when he went, they refused. Actually, it reached the DPC. The DPC called him on loudspeaker and said, listen, I'm hearing this. Why didn't you come when you were called? He said, oh, I feared if I come, they'll arrest me. He said, no, Manzi has made it clear he doesn't want to arrest you. He wants you to take back the property to the club. So they
So what
dispatched
resulted
us.
out of
We
that
never
process?
searched his place. We actually stayed outside. We had the search warrant, but I didn't want to disrespect his place. All they said is bring out. They said, should we search? I said, no, let them bring. They didn't bring everything, but anyway, we got what we needed.
But we saw a
and
search
we
warrant document on social media.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
that-
yeah. There was a
then
search
that
warrant,
reflects-
but we didn't search his place.
You didn't search his place?
No, we never.
So what was the purpose of getting
The
it then?
purpose was
Yes.
to make sure if he refused, then they had
could enforce.
powers they could enforce.
Yes.
Yeah, of which he had shown he was not willing to. And that's why the police said, let's go there.
Now, considering where this thing has reached now,
Yes.
obviously mindful of the relations between you and the other personalities involved, is there anything good you have to say about Tim Glover?
Well,
I do
yes,
believe he has
there are
played
good
a good
things.
role.
Oh yes, he's
He-
done. And that one I've always told people. I think he's done a good job in terms of overseeing the players. Okay, in terms of organizing, team would be the first on pitch, and at times the last, leaving the pitch. So I would be lying if I say he hasn't done a lot of good. Okay, he's been someone who has tried to get things done. During game days, he's among the first people there. You get what I'm saying? So, and that is partly why for a long time I endured him, because of this good aspect. But there is where you realize the marriage has failed and you've just got to divorce to have peace.
Now, back to the other issue I'd asked, the
Yes.
thin line between chairperson vis-a-vis trustee.
Yes.
Now, me, because of my legal background, I would
Yes.
call that a clear conflict of interest. Why? It's one where you have, you sit on the ExCom, but you have,
I'll
powers.
help you answer it.
You- no,
Our-
listen,
our
listen.
constitution
You have
doesn't
powers
stop
over,
it.
You have powers over. Yes, it doesn't stop it.
It doesn't stop it.
But
so
you oversee.
So you can feel
listen, as a chairperson.
Yes.
You oversee an ExCom.
yes,
And the general membership of
Yes.
Hippos,
True.
right?
True.
But at the same time, you sit in as a trustee.
yes, and I
And
also
the
have
trustee has
and I also
overpowers.
have people who oversee me.
Can I take on that, Edwin?
Yes.
And again, I'm going to be very candid.
Yes.
You asked me whether I played rugby at a certain point before I joined, whether I was
Yeah.
in leadership structures and all that. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. When we get to the crust of where the issues are coming from, the history,
Yes.
and where this could end,
Yeah.
I listened to all parties. I'll be honest with you. Josh is a personal friend. We interacted at some point. Joab is a personal friend. We interacted at a certain point.
Yeah.
The players, we interacted with some of them. And when Manzi requested me to be part of the
Hippos.
leadership, I first of all rejected. It was, I think it took about 4 or 5 months,
Yeah.
because I had to now consult, what am I getting into? You know, when I come in, again I asked some of these questions, because the first thing I had to do was look at the constitution. Okay, yes, do I get elected? If not elected, because I wouldn't want to subscribe myself to an election. So I'm a bit too proud for that, you know. But if you're appointing me, is it legally binding?
Yes.
He told me yes. I looked at the constitution, saw that provision. Now, again, if you read the constitution without picking some insight from it, you
Yes.
kind of miss the point. Like you mentioned, this was 2013,
Yeah.
when no one wanted to be a part of something that they weren't clear of. So there was a small team of people leading the process, bearing the vision.
Yes.
Now you need to protect the interests of those people, you know. And how do they do that? The company invests money, and to self face, and like, you know what, we are appointing a trustee.
Yes.
Handle our business in that setup. Report back to us, but you have the powers to do everything.
Yes.
Now, with that, you're now protecting what has been happening lately. Because you never know what's going to happen. Maybe tomorrow Ian could come and become a bit selfish or ambitious
Yes.
and not hijack maybe the leadership. I'm not saying that I have intentions, but I'm just giving you a scenario.
Yeah.
How do you now protect the club from that? You know, because I have money. Maybe I hit a deal and I have $1 billion on me, and I can finance the players. I can buy off funds. I can do whatever I can.
Yeah.
I could unsap everything, and you know.
Yeah.
Now that is there to protect. Maybe it can be revised because this is 2013, 2013 to 2025. A lot of things have changed. You could find better ways of maybe
Phrasing the language around it.
yes.
Yes.
But it is a protection mechanism.
True.
It's easier to help sanitize things when some of these issues begin cropping up. I don't know if that really...
Yeah, because I see very much importantly, looking at the constitution, it very much stipulates him as the sole trustee, among many other things, who has the right to receive and consider club accounts, ensure policies and strategies of the company, hold in trust movable and immovable property of the company, as well as formulate policy and strategy for that. And then I think majorly, very much importantly, was that the aspect that was very much used after the season had concluded, to very much appoint the executive committee, considering the union's guidance to revert to the 2013 constitution.
And also maybe, Edwin, just a little,
Yeah.
just to hijack you a little. What I forgot to mention,
Yes.
and actually what I wanted to mention was, even when he approached me and I now accepted to be part of the leadership,
Yes.
he told me, Ian, at any given point, I want to step back. So you guys can actually become maybe chairman. I told him, I'm not interested in that.
Yes.
My interest is, can we have structures? And to be honest, for me, that's going to be if I can achieve that in a year, I'll step back.
Yes.
A place where you have finance protocols, a place where you have governance protocols, a place where you have a sustainability plan, a place where you have partners that actually bring value to the club, a place where the club gives value to the community and to the partners it works with. If I can achieve that in a year, I'll be out.
You'll be out.
You can mark this, you can archive it.
Yes.
Anytime you see me say that, you know what, I'm done, that will be it.
We'll reflect on this.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he actually told me that I don't want to be.
Yeah.
And I told him, boss, you don't have an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously mindful of the autonomous authority, and that's where the bloodlines appear. Considering as chairperson and the trustee, there is more of a thin line, especially when it comes to the autonomous authority of the trustee. Now, from that
A trustee
perspective, how do you
doesn't have-
reconcile these
A trustee doesn't have autonomous per se, because
Yes.
I answer to some other people.
two? Yes.
But this is what I will say. I make sure I oversee and put the club's interests
Yes.
first
Yes.
in everything.
Yeah.
That is why I was willing to sit, talk, see what they want.
What they want.
Because
Yeah.
perhaps someone is saying, me to be part of this, I need a share or something or this or that, to understand what is it that they want, so that I can go back and relate, and we discuss, and if it's agreeable, you sit and discuss how. Or if there are some changes, we see, write down your changes and let's look at it. If it's viable, which discussions never happened at all. Okay? And even still, I gave them an option. If you're willing to work under this 2013 constitution, please sign the documents, and we are good to work together. They were not willing. So there was nothing much I could do. The constitution they rejected made them automatically illegal.
Okay.
So they could only be legal if we sat and agreed, and then they appointed and continued. So, yeah.
At that point, particularly here, you have, I wouldn't want to call them factions. I would call you two groups of people interested in Hippos rugby growing. I think the issue, from what I've heard, without appearing rather biased towards the other side, because we intend to have them on the podcast as well, is that there should be a way forward from here. There should be a way this can be resolved.
Now,
Is there a way we can hold hands and resolve this issue?
I think I've mentioned this maybe twice or thrice.
Yes.
The thing is this. Number one, that constitution allows itself to be, it allows for amendment.
Yes. True.
That's number one. Number two, what is happening right now, again, maybe we're all moving to Kigezi, and people want to pass maybe via Mobende, others want to pass via Masaka.
Yes.
Others maybe want to go by air. We all want to get to the same destination.
Yes.
We just need to agree that, are we moving as a group? Because again, you can only go further if you move as a group with the same kind of approach. And there's an opportunity for this. It has been documented, it has been shown. There's an opportunity to have this kind of discussions. We just need to accept certain things, however hard they might be. there is a constitution. Whatever you need to do has to be guided by that constitution. If you want to introduce maybe a clause that pushes out Manzi, there's a provision in the constitution that can allow for that amendment. You know, if you want to bring in a provision that says that maybe funds have to have some kind of representation in certain decision making,
Yes.
you know, the constitution allows for that. You just need to introduce it legally, and union has put itself clearly out of this.
Yeah.
We are willing to only deal with people that we actually legally recognize. In this case, it is Hippos Rugby Club. So if you continue to purport that you're Jinja Hippos Rugby Football Club, how do you expect union to listen to you? You know, Jinja Club, the landlord, has an agreement with Hippos Rugby Club. When you come as Jinja Hippos, blah, 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 and all that, how do you expect Jinja Club to listen to you? You know? So there's a need to understand those nuances. There's a need to understand those hard facts, but do it legally. Trust me, I'm at a place in my life where I don't enjoy to be in the limelight over certain things. But then if there's a need to actually put things, in a structured way, I'm willing to step in. We just need to have some of these hard conversations. Josh, what do you want? Team Groover, what do you want? Player ABCD, what do you want? Fans ABCD, what do you want?
Will this end up in court?
If they try, they would lose miserably.
No, not about losing. It's about ending up in court to have a finality of the crisis involving
If
both.
right now, I think National Council of Sports recognizes us, Uganda Rugby Union recognizes us, the landlords recognize us because they know who came in 2013. All of them know and have all made it clear. So, if they want, they can go to court. I am not stopping them. But for me, right now, my focus is making sure we win the sevens. That is my focus right now. If they want to go to court, they are free to go.
But
The way they have lost in front of the landlords, in front of the union, is the same way they lose
But also,
in court. So
also, Edwin, away from winning or losing, just try to figure it out. They are going to court as who?
That's for court to decide. I'm not going to speak for them.
No, I'm just saying,
Yes.
you just need
You
to
tell us.
You just need to look at it also factually and realistically. You're going to court as who?
Okay.
Because the regulatory body that Hippos Rugby Club subscribes to, Uganda Rugby Union, has methods and processes of resolving these disputes.
Yeah.
Have you exhausted those? They've given an opportunity to talk. You've failed.
Yeah.
Because I believe NSN court, I'm not solely go, but I do a lot of reading. So I know NSN court will ask you, yes, you're Uganda Rugby Union? Okay. What's a note or comment from Uganda Rugby Union before we proceed with this? You know? So we also need to ask ourselves, okay, yes, maybe there will be a court process. Maybe they will win. Maybe they will lose. That's besides the point. In what capacity are they going to courts? So if it happens, we'll see what happens. But we just, again, like I mentioned, we just need to understand where we stand. We just need to understand some of these nuances.
Okay.
Ian, even if you hated me today, it's besides the point. I'll be there tomorrow. You know, does that mean Hippos is going to stop existing? The ones you're fighting, the Joshua may be insulting the team Groover. You may be trying to. You'll be gone. They will be gone at a certain point. If we can we can coexist even with our alternative, understanding of certain things. There's an opportunity for that.
Lastly, gents, what's the future?
the future of the club is bright. That's what I will tell you. And we are going to keep growing. We're going to get bigger, stronger, and we'll surprise quite a number of people very soon.
Ian?
Strategically, we are looking at formalizing structures. It's something that I've taken lead on. Of course, with guidance from different documentation. Like you might understand, there's rugby needs to subscribe to a new legislation in the country. So you have to do a lot of consultation with that new legislation. But again, like you mentioned, we're at a point where after 12 years, you need to show progress towards sustainability. The question you asked me about revenue in rugby, we are heavily working on that. And depending on how the conversations go, we want to work with more partners to grow this. We want to work with more partners to see that there's a sustainable mode around it. Maybe let's say each grade needs to get a kind of boost, because that's how people like Oji have survived through to date, where he's now also in a leadership position. So from a strategic angle, there's a lot to formalize so many things. Without going into detail, that's what I would give you.
Okay, thank you very much for watching this particular podcast on Hippos and what is ongoing in their camp. Very much so look forward to the next episode where we'll be doing a series hosting Wakabi, Joshua, as well as other key personalities in respect to the entity to which they subscribe to and what they run and what their plans are and what the story is from their end. Very much so at Fat Cats Podcast, we will keep it as seamless as possible for you to understand this in newest conversations like this. And gentlemen, thank you very much. I think it's only fair we sign out with the Hippos outro. That is the Vuvuzelas, and hopefully Hippos can be able to survive the storm that comes with this particular moment powered by Black. But thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.